Look at those bags underneath my eyes. Good morning, everyone. This is what I get when Battery Park has mass surveillance deciding if you could sleep comfortably or not. Because they don't have a problem with you sleeping when sitting down. They just like to routinely walk up on you 3, 4 times a night, which is unacceptable. And if they did yesterday, right after my afternoon nap, it was when I had my eyes closed, waiting for them to go to sleep, you know, waiting for people that don't like them to go to sleep to take a picture of them and continue with their mass surveillance. So yesterday I left a really important video in Wall Street Bets related to Obama level mass surveillance and the unfortunate direction in which Battery Park has taken because, I was sleeping fine. NYPD has no problem with me sleeping, laying down under Three River Terrace after using my phone all night. I don't have a bed and a mattress and a pillow there. I have my backpack. I lay down to use my phone. My phone battery dies, and by then I close my eyes and I wake up around this time again. But unfortunately, to these Negroes, right? To these Negroes and some of them light skins within the group, they think they could, that they could run the show and decide if I could lay down or not with NYPD authority. Because if NYPD got no problem with me, they should have no problem with me, and that's why I brought NYPD Internal Affairs into this to tell these kids that there's rules they gotta follow. I'm gonna show the document here in a minute. I'm gonna show the email here in a minute, but we got to, which one? Which one didn't get it? Yeah, the email in which Battery Park ambassadors used to be at doesn't work anymore. It stopped working. They said, "Yeah, we received your email," and then the second one that I sent with Internal Affairs shut down the program. So this is the final one. Let me see if I could pull it up in a Word document. In a Word document right here real quick so that you guys can have a little read as I explain to these people what mass surveillance is and why these people should not be allowed in Battery Park doing what they do. At best, remove them from the park during the daylight hours, right? Remove them from the park, during the nighttime hours and come back and do their duties, which is harass homeless people or people who are just sleep, with their eyes closed. Could be someone's boyfriend that locked out of his home or whatever. Could be whomever. People from Goldman, from Amex, right there, just tired as fuck. Yeah, let me lock my eyes out here today, and the harassment is 24/7. The surveillance is 24/7. These people are watching you 24/7. And in a video I said yesterday that it's okay when there was foreign nationals in Battery Park. Battery Park, not now. 2009, 2010, 2009 used to have 25-foot, 30-foot long limousines to carry these people quarter mile into World Trade Center 3. You understand what I'm saying? Like the quality of people, embassy, national level of people within Battery Park working at World Trade Center, that I'm guessing you got to escalate security for that. But working class Americans or high income working class Americans, it's out of the question. You should not have a black security guard making rounds on people when your kid is sitting at the park in front of his house or whatever, and these people thinking that a child is deemed suspicious. So I made, you know, additional remarks that these people believe they have authority and power over taking pictures of people 24/7. Whenever you're outside, we have a right to take pictures of you. And that raises real big concerns. Let me show the document. Let me show the document because I'm losing sleep, comfortable sleep, because these people don't want me comfortable. These people are fine with me sitting at a bench. And police don't care if I lay down at Three River Terrace. You know, they're not that they have it hasn't resulted in no arrests in the last 2 years. But unfortunately, BPL ambassadors have taken to themselves harassing me in 3 occasions now in the middle of the night just to wake me up and say, "Oh, you can't lay down here," blah blah. You know, man, being vicious. And if I was a cop, right, if I pulled up and frisked and searched them, I would find cannabis, I would find handcuffs, I would find pistols and guns. So it's kids that cannot be out here thinking that they police officers. They think they have the power to enforce, to be lookouts of NYPD as far as Tribeca, and in public libraries and in supermarkets. That shit gotta go down. They gotta knock them out the park. Gotta remove them, and maybe a few hours a day, right? Give them a 4 hour shift to walk around the park and make sure nobody's in the park that should not be there, and that's it. That's the basis of their job. Their job could start at 7 in the morning and be done by 11. And at 11, I want no security guards in the park. I want no mass surveillance of working class Americans. Where I was sitting yesterday, Teardrop Park, there were 30 white babies there. 30, 40, 35, 40 white babies there. White babies. There's no white babies anywhere in Manhattan unless in a crib. They got nowhere to be, right? And white American parents in New York City know that Battery Park is the spot to have a child. Why? Because there's evidence of that. Because there's 35 kids right there. Because there's story time. Because there's programs for them to sing along at Whole Foods with the guitar with the banjo guy. Story time in the library. These people that take care of him, to put him, to give him some entertainment instead of being locked in their Battery Park apartment for the remainder of the day. As a parent, I don't want any African American yellow vest security guard walking in front of my son 3 times a day, especially in teenager years when he might deem him suspicious because he's teen drinking or smoking weed or doing some stupid shit. You see what I mean? These people are targeting and profiling regular Americans. We're going to get to the document in just a second. A document that I sent to Civil Enforcement, NYPD, and Internal Affairs, just so that they remove these people from the park immediately, effective now. Why? Because they have the right to take pictures of you whenever they see cause. And with racist shit, with the issues they're having psychologically, with income inequality or socioeconomic concerns, they're not supposed to be at a white park, baby. These people, it's not supposed to be where there's 35, 45 babies out there, white toddlers, of standing erect and walking around size. They're not supposed to be near them with their issues. They're not supposed with taking pictures. No. They gotta go. Staring at people having lunch, because they definitely stare at you here. I've had several occasions tell them, "Yo, you staring, B? What am I looking at? Eating dinner? You're making me eat my dinner fast for staring at me." You see? Telling them because they keep their eye. When you're suspicious, they'll stand there and act like they're tired and just stare at you for the remainder of the afternoon. Gotta go. They gotta go. They gotta find a place to go. So let's bring up the document real quick here. Let's bring up the document. We're gonna read it from the top here on stream so that you guys understand what is happening in Battery Park and why is this important. Let me zoom in. These are communists, babe. These are fucking government servants. These are servants. These are not regular working class Americans. These are servants. We're talking about free food, cash assistance, free jobs, right? And free shelter. That's what constitutes a slave, right? And the slaves are looking to take civil liberties from people. If you pass out, oh, we'll take a picture of you, or we'll call someone to assign you a shelter because you can't sleep in public. What the fuck is that? Sleep in the public, having a daytime nap, an afternoon nap, midday, 3 o'clock through 5 o'clock. That's a civil right. That's a civil liberty. That's free will. And these people, it's the absence of free will. Having a million people from a government program in which makes them believe that they're successful, right? Because they think they're successful. They think they're regular. They think they work. They regular working class Americans, and they don't realize they're in a government revolving door, in and out. They snap the ship from them. They have to leave. They have to find NYCHA. They have to figure it out. They snap. They make too much money in their job. They kill the snaps. They got to work real hard now and think about financing. They lose their job, they go back on Snap. So it's a revolving door. They're in and out of these fucking HRA programs. And in their psychology, they think they're successful. But they're the absence of success because they're not successful in the real world. Look where I'm pointing. In the real world, out there, not here in New York City. Here they got it easy. Here they could be a street sweeper, a security guard, a bus boy, clean the dishes, a table's a server. Here they could be whatever the fuck they decide them to be. But out there, they gotta work hard for that. They gotta compete with other white people for that. They gotta deal with real work pressures. Maybe Salome, if they have a family, maybe Salome could help them. Maybe private programs could get the ball rolling to see if they find employment. But here they get everything quick. It's like that. It's a revolving door. It's a place in which you go right now, Career Connect, right this morning. Oh, take a pink slip. Take a pink slip, go downtown, take a taxi and see if they want you for this job. And who do you think gets hired for these low level income jobs? The majority of dark Hispanics and African Americans, not white people. They just get discriminated. Who do they want working for low level retail and food? All of them, every single one of them. Why? Because they recognize that this is the people that do the hardest work. This is the people that they want because they want to make uniformity. Like they're not going to hire a bunch of white people into Target, knowing that Target is all black, knowing that these retail across the 5 boroughs is like McDonald's, majority Hispanic or black. You're not going to see a single white person working for either McDonald's or because there's a really big motherfucking racial problem when it comes to low level jobs. So those services are for them. The shelter is for them. The food stamp, not so much. And it's a revolving door. And once they get out here into Battery Park with these ideas that they could surveil you, they could take pictures of you, they could harass you, knowing that you're not going to leave, that you work here, that you're technically a resident, then the problems begin. Because NYPD doesn't have a problem with me. They do. And I want them out the park for several reasons. And we're gonna identify out loud here so that people around me listen. What are these several reasons? Let me zoom in right here. Dr. Roman Bonilla, 2 Civil Enforcement Division. Let me hide the camera. Formal complaint BPL ambassadors on lawful jurisdiction, harassment, and violation of civil rights in Battery Park. Dear Civil Enforcement Division, I'm writing to formally document and escalate a pattern of misconduct, jurisdictional overreach, and harassment by Battery Park Alliance BPL ambassadors and associated security personnel. This complaint outlines their repeated violations of privacy, discriminatory enforcement practices, and false assertions of authority, particularly in areas that fall outside their legal jurisdiction. In this example, they think their cops out there they got, when they came to me, they had cuffs. I heard them, and they had a pistol on them. I know they had a pistol. They had a cuff. They had a pistol on them. So when they wake me up, they think these cops. They think they are the law of the land out here with handcuffs and guns. And if I could have frisked them, if I could have frisked and searched these black people right there, I would have found both of the no-nos, cannabis and guns. But this is what's happening in Battery Park. Number 1, unlawful jurisdictional claims and overreach. BPL ambassadors operate under the mistaken belief that they possess full jurisdiction over Battery Park, including the private property corridors between River Terrace and North End Avenue, extending as far as Chambers Street. Just because it has a park, it is not Battery Park. From 3 River Terrace to Chambers, any alcove, any private area between 2 buildings is considered private property. This includes a park between 2 buildings. This includes steps, benches between buildings for people to live, work, and play. To the playground between North River and North End Avenue again. The playground or whatever, the water park that's in their and Teardrop Park, which is there's 45 white babies there, and the absence of just not even a single black baby in that group. So this is higher working class Americans being surveyed by African Americans in the yellow vest. And this sets a dangerous as hell precedent. This is dangerous. You know, this is real dangerous to have these people with the mistaken belief that they could take pictures of you, the database of these pictures, where they're sending these pictures, the account, the telecom account in which these images were sent through, the logs, you know, the images that were left in a company of whomever they deem suspicious. Because you could take care of the phone, you could probably throw it away, destroy the phone, and the picture is gone or whatever. But telecom, since the operation of this program, you know, when there used to be foreign nationals here or whatever, people with, you know, with sensible requirements, higher security or whatever, in which their work would have been fine, then okay. But destroying the phone and telecom, these people been taking hundreds of thousands of pictures of people out here. This is not a claim, this is reality. So, however, they're merely intermediaries of the NYPD and hold no independent enforcement authority. They're basically hanging out at night, you know, doing rounds on private property just to fuck with people, you know, because I'm tired of them already. I know what they do, and I don't want them three times around, you know, in one of them in 15 minutes, the other in every 2 hours, in little convoys of of data gathering. The big problem is the data gathering of regular, you know, the data gathering and their beliefs. Because I don't have a problem with me laying down in the rain, you know, like not laying down in the rain because I've slept 2 nights in the rain already. They don't have a problem with me in the rain. They have a problem with me putting a piece of cardboard on the ground, laying down away from the rain, using my phone until the battery's exhausted, and going to sleep in an area in which NYPD had no problems with me. If they didn't exist, I wouldn't have seen NYPD not a single time in this establishment because both Riverside and the other building at North End Avenue know me since I was a child. I've been frequenting this area since I was 25 years old, and I'm 40 now. You know, I left for 10 years, but I've been in this area for longer than they think. But these kids think these kids think that they run the show or whatever. That I'm not a citizen. So let's continue. Despite this, they routinely intrude into semi-private spaces after warnings of building supervisors, front desk, and management, building alcoves, residential parks, and entryways where NYPD has previously confirmed no violation exists. You know, they call the cops. They think they could run the shit. Nothing really important is happening there. They waste NYPD resources. They just check, oh, Dr. Roman Benias on a piece of cardboard tonight. Wow, it's raining, right? Yeah, he's there. Oh, he's asleep. Oh, what a pretty baby. And police walk away because they know I look normal. I'm not a bum. I'm not carrying all these types of shit. I'm not a drug user. I'm a person that frequents and is gonna lay down once they're gone in that same piece of cardboard and wake up every day at 7 in the morning or whenever the restaurant opens without freaking disturbance. You know, I'm gonna be out of Dodge. And in the winter, 5 a.m. in the morning is the norm because it's a little cold out there. Disrupt residents, right? BPL ambassadors disrupt residents and workers without legal justification, even after NYPD officers, including a lieutenant from the first precinct, have verified that my presence is not unlawful, in this case at 3 River Terrace in the evening. They misrepresent their authority, falsely claiming the right to remove individuals from areas that are not under BPL's purview. Number two, harassment, surveillance, and racial socioeconomic profiling. On multiple occasions, BPL ambassadors have engaged in aggressive and discriminatory conduct, including unlawful photography and surveillance on June 14, 2025, and on June 12, 2025. 5 to 6 BPL associates confronted me while I was resting in a discreet area near 3 River Terrace, a location previously deemed acceptable by NYPD. Without provocation, they demanded I leave and proceeded to photograph me like paparazzi. We're talking about 6 with flash pictures, 6 pictures with flash as I'm getting up and sitting. Despite my objections, one agent explicitly stated, "We will take pictures of you whenever you are outside." All right? This raises serious concerns about data privacy violation. They could only get away with this here in New York City, here in Battery Park. Why? Because Battery Park is rich working class Americans. So we're talking about rich working class Americans and their mass surveillance. Because if they were to take a picture of anyone in the train being belligerent, they would take a fist to the mouth from their own people. If they were to take a picture within any MTA substation of anyone deemed aggressive or out of place, their own kind would rock them in the mouth because they don't want people. New York City doesn't like their picture taken, their video taken. That's based on previous observation. They don't like it. Americans, New Yorkers, do not like their picture taken anywhere. Not on the train, not on video, not on purpose. And these type of security guards that get away with this shit here because people is rich in the subway train or anywhere else in Manhattan, they will get rocked in the teeth. They will get robbed. They will get frisked for their shit. They will get their shit rocked, stolen, phone deleted until they pick up and move on. It's for real. They're getting away with what they're doing here because we white out here. Because the majority of this people is white. So raising serious concerns about data privacy violations, racial and socioeconomic bias. All 6 agents were African American while I'm a white professional. This follows a prior incident of misconduct with similar racial dynamics, suggesting a troubling pattern. Pick on you because you're nice and comfortable, because they're fine with me in the rain. They're not going to tell me to go as I'm sitting down in proper cover while it's pouring out there and they need an umbrella. They don't mind with me sleeping on the rain. Why? Because they don't understand the type of individual I am. I'm a federal soldier. I'm federally cleared in this motherfucker. I got a federal clearance. I left the army because I was told to leave, not because I was chaptered out and deemed ineligible to serve. Nah, they told me to go and they did what they had to do behind the scenes after my performance. Hostile and non-professional conduct. Agents have exhibited belligerent attitudes, refused to provide legal reasoning for their actions, and deliberately disrupted my sleep despite my long-standing presence in the area since June 26, 23, and way beyond that. Way beyond that. Way beyond that. 2009, 10, 11, 12. I've been in front of Ubon Pain, or now the coffee shop that's here now, the Australian coffee shop right here. Number 3, violations of NYPD and civil rights. BPO's conduct directly contradicts NYPD policies and civil rights protections. NYPD precedent. Officers from the 1st Precinct have repeatedly confirmed that my presence in the area is not a violation. They're not going to wake me up. They're not going to arrest me. They're not going to do nothing if I'm laying down in that area within 3 River Terrace, provided I'm not obstructing access and or visible from the sidewalk. I like to be a little discreet. I move a table, I move a chair, put a piece of cardboard, and I get down on my ass and stretch these legs, baby. From the sidewalk or engaging in a lawful activity. Their presence at 3 River Terrace resulted in no lawful activity or arrest in at least 6-7 visits in the last 2 years. So maybe they called them, maybe they came on their own to check up on me, and they're not going to wake me up. So if they're not going to wake me up when I'm dead asleep, right? If they're not going to do anything, BPL's conduct must be addressed. They must be told just to leave me alone. They must be told to leave private property. As the first time they woke me up from that area and made a scene, they were told to go. They don't want them there. They don't want these people in the loitering in the building, smoking weed in there. Remember, these people is black. These people is black. It's not a game. These people is sucking on the pacifier, sitting down, taking off their yellow vest, nodding off like if they're on heroin. And these are these are the kids that be walking around the park in the morning or in the middle of the night. Right? 4th Amendment concerns unconsented photography of individuals in non-public transitional spaces. Their lawn, their front door, building entryways may constitute a lawful search and seizure. Right? Discriminatory enforcement, targeting individuals based on perceived suspicious behavior, sleeping, resting, midday, nighttime, disproportionately affects neurodivergent, homeless, and working class individuals. And these are part of most biological functions as standard human activity. Like they think they're smart, waiting for me to fall asleep to take a picture of me, or change change their convoy, their walking around routine when I change places. Because they did that recently. They never walked through that pathway in front of that building until I started sleeping in the rain there, sitting down and letting the rain hit me and close my eyes. Until then they changed to continue the harassment, to continue pushing what to continue doing what they should not be doing within Chambers and River Terrace. Those luxury apartments that used to be full of foreign nationals, out. Demands for immediate action. Given these violations, this is to civil enforcement and internal affairs at NYPD. Given these violations, I request the following: formal investigation by Civil Enforcement and NYPD Internal Affairs Bureau, AIB, into BPO's jurisdictional boundaries and enforcement protocols, right? And if it were me, frisk them, because they probably think they cops. They probably think they're police, and faking a Leo is something real vicious out here. You'll go to jail if you're trying to fake a Leo. If you think you can get a gun and badge, right? You think you could find a little fake badge and NYPD pack a pistol or handcuffs. That's serious time. I don't care if you're a security guard. That they'll give you time. If I swear to God, yes, not yesterday, 2 nights ago, if I could have frisked and searched, I would have found handcuffs, right? Intent to what's the name of that? What's the term? Falsely imprison or falsely imprison, or what's the name? Citizens arrest someone with handcuffs, which is illegal, and the pistol, which should just lock them away. Give them 8 years for that, beat. Give these niggas 8 years, beat. I want these people to do time for what they've been doing in Battery Park, because it was okay when there were foreign nationals here, but they got to catch up. Their lack of free will in this city is getting mad dangerous. It's getting real toxic to be here. The other side of the rainbow, California, the west side, is looking way better based on the behaviors of a few kids with a yellow vest, right? June 14 incident, right? Formal investigation. June 14 incident, including retrieval and deletion of lawfully obtained images. And this is not just my images, everyone's images. This has to be known. This has to be put on NBC. BPL enforcement agency have been taking pictures of regular Americans for the last 15 years. Last 20 years, this program has been in service. This raises serious concerns about data privacy, so on and so forth. Arrests were made, you know, technically with 45 white babies there in the absence of black babies within Battery Park or Hispanic babies within the area. It's a white community. It's not a Latin or African American community, because they wouldn't be able to pull the shit they pull out here in a black community. They would they would have quit their jobs a long time ago. They wouldn't have been able. They would have been rocking the mouth over a picture. Boom! The first time they took a picture disproportionately of whomever they want. Right? June 14 incident at the pictures, racial bias and harassment complaints. Targeting the white sleeping guy with a suit on. Complaints of racial bias, right? They're black, you're white. These people gonna do things to you differently because you're white, and they're gonna, like they did the first time, not even bother an African American female who sought to be next to me, right? Put up a chair and they do nothing to her, but fuck with me. Tell me to go why do nothing to the black lady there. Like it has to stop. The racist shit got to stop in Battery Park. Public clarification from BPL and NYPD on where BPL authority begins and ends. Basically, keep them to the park, assign tighter schedules, right? In the morning, 7 o'clock. Shit, give them till 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock, 11 o'clock in the day, and get them out the park. Out the park. Because everything else, anyone else you catch sleeping during the day or during the night, is biological function. You might be taking pictures of someone you should not be taking pictures of, in the middle of the day. You might be looking to bother someone that's really tired and worked all day and got up earlier than they did, you know. But that's basically what's happening here. Gotta take them out of the park because they do nothing during the day. All they do is, oh, I'm not talking. They phone in Somalia, right? Speak to their people in Africa, right? Standing there all day in the phone all day. These people got an infinite, unlimited minute card for Africa or whatever, sitting there talking a foreign language, thinking that they security guards to do nothing all day. So cut the hours, 7 to 11. 7 to 11 is the time to remove everyone from the park. Take pictures of those people if you want to, right? And after afternoon, right? Everyone out and remove them from the park. Don't let them come back because if you let them come back, the real mass surveillance will occur. The data gathering of regular working class Americans is going to happen. If you stretch your legs inappropriately here in Battery Park, right, you put your head on your head after a Coca-Cola and a sandwich, they might take a picture of you. You might end up in that database. And you could look like me. Look, I got a suit on. Take a picture of you without your consent. Don't wait till you're sleeping too to take that picture. Just a black kid to take your white picture. Gotta stop. New York City gotta wake its ass up. Next thing, like I said, public clarification from BPL and NYPD where BPL authorities begin and end. I don't want them in Tribeca. I don't want them in the public library. I don't want them in Whole Foods. I don't want them anywhere. That's not the park. I don't want them to cross the East Highway. And at best, contained to the park's boundaries, because they like to go that way, this and that. So if you by mistake found a spot that you could sit down and maybe nod out, they'll fuck with you there too. Next thing, explicit prohibition on photographing residents without probable cause. Given it's a majority white community, lots of these white babies, your children out there in the middle of the night at 10:30, 11:30 at night, maybe having the little booze as teenagers, maybe smoking a little weed. They might be getting profiled by an African-American ignorant security guard with a camera in his pocket. He might take pictures of your kids, Their staring is there. The evidence surmounts against them, like you're telling them you're having your dinner, serve a beer, having a sandwich, having chicken nuggets, and you got an eye from the sky staring at you, and you tell them, yo, you're staring at me, dude. Stop staring at me. Keep moving. Just looking, staring, provocating, creating a tense and provocative stance against his supposed job. But we're talking about staring 2-3 hours, and you're sitting there and you're sipping, you finish the last beer, and now you're on your phone and you look to the left and he's still there staring. You gotta stop. That gotta stop. Gotta cut that. They get away with these behaviors, like I said in the beginning, here in Battery Park, because Battery Park's majority white. They can't do that anywhere else in the city. So you gotta start cutting red tape, blue tape, black tape to get these people home. These people are public servants. These are public jobs, revolving door, like I explained. These people think that they're successful, and they're just, reducing free will and having a real civil issue out here, right? Explicit prohibition on photographing residents without probable cause. Just take the camera out their pocket, take their phone out their pocket. No more pictures. Training and accountability. Mandated retraining for BPL ambassadors on constitutional rights, de-escalation, and NYPD coordination. Don't say nothing. Don't wake me up. Call the cops. Let the cops get them out. All right? Let the cops tell me to get up because they're not going to do it. You see? That's a big distinction. And NYPD thinks I'm fine 6-7 times over the last 2 years showing up, and I'm sitting there like with my phone or assed out or asleep or with all my covers on because it's winter, and they're not going to do nothing because they know I'm not breaking the law. I'm not visible from the sidewalk. I'm hidden. I'm fine. I have a suit on. I'm waking up at 5 in the morning or 7 in the morning. I'm not lounging there all day or whatever. They understand. They recognize who is working at, NYPD is pretty good at making sure who is who and where are they in the homeless specter, neuro crazy, schizophrenic, homeless child, runaway, they could, or working class person. They know they could. These people have no idea what that is. These people have no idea who are the people they need to focus on. In the end, conclusion: Battery Park is a public space that should be safe and welcoming, not a check for not a zone for unchecked 24/7 surveillance. Making rounds on people when they're asleep. That's a no-no. Get away from them. You're not supposed to be checking up on someone sleeping 3 times in the middle of the night. Just, just go. We're already going through enough shit to have to deal with you guys. Unchecked 24 surveillance and intimidation. I urge your officers to intervene before further civil rights violation occur. Please confirm, Dr. Roman Bonilla, President, R. Bonilla and Company. So that was the how do you call it? Where's the camera at? Here we go. Turn the camera back on. The camera's not here. Hold on. Let me remove this. Stop it from streaming. Yes, for real. They gotta go, B. They gotta go. Remove. Where's the camera at? Hold on. I gotta find the camera now. Oh, there it is. There it is. They gotta go, B. They gotta. They gotta wake up. They know what they're doing. They know that what they're doing here is illegal. They know they're from the depths of Brooklyn, from the depths of Queens, from the depths of fucking Bronx. None of them. Maybe they're from Lower East Side. Maybe these kids are from Manhattan or whatever, or maybe even here from Tribeca. But what they're getting away with here is out of the question. They gotta go. They gotta go. They gotta pick up. These people is troubling, right? Their behavior is a little bit weird. They gotta wake up because we're talking about surveillance of people. We're talking about pictures taken of people. We're talking about doing things that nobody would stand. They wouldn't stand on nothing as they getting punched or their phones removed to delete that type of information. They only do it here because white people is soft and nice and tender, and they got white kids, and they're not the rough New York kind people. They're chill. So if they're chill, they think, oh, we can take pictures of them. Nothing's gonna happen. But there is a big civil issue in it. And it's up to them. It's up to NYPD after this to, internal affairs to decide. At least their email is not working. To start shutting them down, to figure out what to do it. Because if it worked for me, okay, you need it, right? You need BPL. You guys need jobs. Be here at 8:30 in the morning. Be here at 8. Anyone past 8 in the morning in this park should not be considered a threat. Should not be considered homeless or suspicious. And you guys are done by noon, right? By noon, you think you guys can get them out the park? Thank you. Clock them out at noon. Send them on their way to get a real job, to go back to the revolving door and find another place to work. But that's basically where they're needed. They're not needed to be bothering people 24/7 in Battery Park, to do nothing all day on their phone, talking in African and shit. Get them out. All they're needed to is to lift someone up, and go at 8:30 in the morning. And if they're there by 8:30, get them out. And pay attention to who you're waking up to. Because it might be a working class American. He might be real tired. Might be a doctor like myself, tired as hell, decided to sleep in the day, and he needs some rest. He needs some rest. He doesn't look like a homeless person. He looks like a working he looks like a working person. He's probably going to the library, right? Or sit here in the cafeteria or get something to eat or whatever. They need, identification of who they messing with before they act like if it's a joke. Look at that. It's an office member. I had to take a picture. He's homeless. Nah. They got to be removed from the park as quick as possible. Because if not, it's Obama level surveillance out here. Obama level surveillance, baby. And Obama did a lot of surveillance things, from drones and all that. It's Obama level surveillance out here. Like I said, Battery Park used to be full of foreign nationals, Jewish nationals, Chinese nationals, right? French nationals, all these people. Maybe their kids took over those apartments. There used to be lines of limousines out here. When I was here in the beginning, there used to be limousines double parked, and they drove them less than a quarter mile to drop them off in this building, that turned into a mall. But for a quarter mile, double parked limousines, 30-foot limousines, right? They waited for these people on suits just to drive around north and go right there, just to drop them off right there. Nothing else. That's as far as they went, just so that they didn't walk from here to there. There's to be a lot of money out here. And then if there's foreign nationals, then maybe mass surveillance is okay because you want these people safe, you want these people secure. These people are from another country or whatever, and they have a real different embassy level job or whatever, or trade job here within, within World Trade Center 3. But outside of that, times change. It's regular working people there. It's regular white babies out there. The picture taking gotta stop because they wouldn't get away with it. They wouldn't get away with what they doing in Battery Park if it wasn't for the demographic of Battery Park. If it wasn't for the kindness and empathy and understanding and, the high income level, quality of life or whatever, not the roughness of anything else on East River. The attitudes and the behaviors of East River is not the same, that way. It's not the same thing as how people are here. So they got to get them out. In turn, got to shut that program down. They got to either shut it down or take a picture from them. Take at best, no more pictures of anyone out here, of nobody. I want to take a picture of nobody. Racist, serious. Cause you imagine, bunch of ignorant racist kids, right? Racist as hell. The fuck white people kids, which is a lot of these people, the fuck white people kids with a camera in their pocket, right? Fuck white people kids with a camera in their pocket. What do you think they doing to you? What do you think they doing? Bothering you, guns in their pocket, cuffs in their pocket, taking pictures of the white people. Yeah, fuck that doctor. Or doctor. Nah, it gotta stop it. They gotta grow up and they gotta take their job and figure out where they're gonna put them. figure it out. Hopefully they do. I know NYPD is already on the case. Finally, some coffee in me. Hopefully NYPD does what it needs to do. There's too many kids out there, baby. Teardrop Park, 45 white babies. The absence of Hispanic and black baby there. And they're wealthy because living here, a lot of dollars to be in one of these buildings. And you have you can have a radical in that group, baby, with a camera in his pocket. It's funny. Oh yeah. Now taking pictures of whomever. It's not right. It's illegal. It's deemed illegal, baby. Let's do the market open, see what Iran and Israel have done to the market overnight. Let's see what they've done to the market overnight. I'm guessing it's puts on Lockheed Martin with the down F-35. I said yesterday that the people running the pilot, the captured pilot who was driving that doesn't know how to use it. F-35 is like Amar. Remember, you guys know EVE Online? So the Amar race has a couple ships that you could lock in really far and send munitions from a distance. And that's precisely the role of an F-35. It's a war fighter, but it's not a dodge fighter. It's not a dog fighter. F-35 is a plane that you're supposed to lock, intercept, and shoot down pilots before they even see you in the air. So they were using Israel was using two F-35s like if it was a dogfight. What do you think they did with them? They blew them up. They blew them up. They blew that out the water. So that model's questioned on its current, there's a big question mark on its capabilities and what real pilots could do with that, because it looks great. They fly great. They they do all these things. They could stall flat on the air. They could do all these things, but if they're not operable and they used them as a dogfighter, they made a big mistake. They're not supposed to go straight to another plane and dogfight. They're supposed to stay really far away, circling the action. Let's say if there's a dogfight in the middle, they're supposed to be around the big activity, locking in, sending a missile as support. If someone gets close to them, some flares, some shaft, get away, and evasive maneuvers. Try not to get blown up, but it's not supposed to be used in where the bad boys are. F-14, right? They're not supposed to be in there, but they put them in there and they blew it. They blew them out. They exploded them because they didn't know how to use them. They weren't using them correctly. That's my final assumption. And not using them correctly is gonna stop. Is gonna cost them in stock price. It's almost. I see it as a guarantee already. Where are we? No, the market went up 4 points. That's good. It went up 3 points from the close. It might be bullish, but must be told they gotta retrain these people on that F-35 because they don't know how to use it. They're supposed to be locking at targets before they can, because their systems. They're not supposed to. The other plane, the enemy plane, is not going to know they're being locked by an F-35. That's basically how those system works. They're untraceable in the sky, right? They're not supposed to be found when it comes to the radar capability, and they're supposed to lock on the enemy without the enemy knowing that they're being locked on. So when they do realize that they're being locked on, what they lock on is because I already seen what they do on video. What they're supposed to lock on is the incoming missile coming from something they cannot see. You know, that's just the most expensive warbird out there, and they used it like a dog fighter, and it made it look like shit. Israel made it look like garbage, made that American toy look like garbage, and likely because they were using it with, they weren't using it appropriately. The real use was, to stay around, fly away, find a plane within the radar, lock it, shoot it, stay away, right? Stay within, and if something is coming at you, go the other way, right? Just like EVE Online, if you could tell that there's a plane behind you, you afterburn away from that target in a straight line and then shoot behind you, and that's it. That's basically how you operate that blade. But they've made it look so bad overnight. It's part of the equation. I'm guessing shorts on Lockheed Martin today, and if not, probably more bullish activity. Let's check Lockheed Martin. Let's check Lockheed. Let's check LOC here. LMT. We got the 500, 486. It dropped 30 points on Friday when the war popped off. MACD on Lockheed is at the 30. There's a sell signal at 1 in the morning at Lockheed, and it's just slipping all the way down. Let's see what happens. MACD is red on the 30 on the minute at Lockheed. And that 30 right there, that one at a 30 minute on Lockheed Martin is already screaming short. A 4 point score, it's full short on Lockheed right now. There's probably a significant gap down there. If I could check, let's check. At open, it's probably going to be a gap down. A lot of bearish volume on Friday there. Although there are in some supply, there is some macro supply there. Some decent supply between 473 and 461, and it's currently at 486. Yeah, so they're in short. They are at 486, so they're up here. It's a short today already. It's already looking at a macro, at a daily candle that they're going to short today. Unless they pump, which is always expected. You could always expect either or with supply and demand. Another beautiful day, baby. Another beautiful day. Ah. Oh no. Those bonds are so fast, bro. Oh my goodness. Could you imagine being a future jet pilot and having to deal with a supersonic missile? Jesus Christ. God damn. Brr. Can you imagine being a jet pilot on that? We need faster. We need faster planes. We can't escape that. That was really fast, man. This is a really good image of that. Just so luckily they don't have enough warheads. That's it. They're not a bigger bomb. They're just hypersonic munitions. It's not moving with 1,000 pounds. It's like 1,000 pounds of TNT, 2,000 pounds of TNT. Then we have a huge problem. Yep. War, baby. I got calls on USO for August. That's my play. August 15th, 79, 79 call. Bought gold August 25th, 26 days out. 42 days out with a stop loss at the high, which is 3,500. I should put the stop loss higher, but I know I'm pretty sure this plays both oil. I think like Maverick. If 8 million, eight no, $8 billion pulled out the stock market over the Israel Iran, they're gonna mobilize this into something else, and that is the bond market and gold. So even though it's looking like there's a macro short right now, this is a ramp up in at the daily candle. You could tell that looking to it's going for 3,500, 3,500, 3,550. Like it's going up. It's not found a top up there. It's going up. So we'll buy out there and we'll put the limit $50 higher. I mean, I should go for the outside of supply, which is 35.50. So let's just do 35.50 for now and see if we make this money. I think it's like 35, 50 or better, baby. Where, yep, gold long calls. Yep, gold. August, the same strike. How many? How much? How much you bet? 29 million long calls on gold. You see, champion. Even there's other gamblers. They 29 million on gold, and I just said, man, for the same month, 42 days out. Ah, who do you think Dr. Roman is? A little gamer? Ah, I'd say 3,500, 3,550, respectfully. Let's see what we got on starving. Let's open CNBC, see what we got out here now.
Maybe markets are overreacting to some of the tensions in the Middle East.
Or underreacting. I mean, oil has this sort of numb effect sometimes to geopolitical risk. That's been a constant theme for the last few years now. So it was actually a big move that we got on Friday. And some might have thought coming in today, we would see oil prices elevated again today, just because we're in the fourth day in a row now. It's escalated. But I guess what the market is looking at, David, is that oil supply still flows through the Middle East and has not been disruptive. And worst case scenarios for the oil market, i.e. Israel going after the oil infrastructure, the production in Iran, which is one of the world's biggest producers, has not happened. Iran has not disrupted flow of oil via the Strait of Hormuz, which is really important for about a fifth of the world's oil. And because that's not happening, oil prices down again. And we continue this sort of theme of the geopolitical risk just not going into oil like we've seen in years past.
And potentially not impacting the market. Obviously, oil down and the futures are up as our viewers saw there. So, yeah, I think it's interesting because the prospect of an attack on Iran's nuclear facilities, so to speak, or their uranium enrichment facilities and the like, certainly has been something the market participants have talked about as a possibility for years. I think the expectation would have been a stronger response, a negative response, but it has not happened, at least at this point. And to your point, it's not as though things have calmed down in any way. If anything, they've continued to escalate, with both sides exchanging ever increasing volleys of bombing.
Yeah, there have been some civilian deaths in Tel Aviv and in Haifa, but Netanyahu is on the tape this morning, says there is a path to victory. They're on their way to achieving their two objectives, which is removing the nuclear threat and then removing the missile threat. So I guess there is a sense that if they can achieve their objectives earlier, that's less time under which the markets would be under strain.
And I think the other reason why maybe market resilient is this growing question about whether the U.S. would participate in any more offensive way. I mean, I think the U.S. has obviously been involved in the defensive help for Israel, but the president has made it clear that he's still aiming for a diplomatic solution. So maybe one of the goals here is to just pressure Iran so far into getting some sort of deal to end its nuclear ambitions on nuclear weapons. Whatever that is, the fact that the U.S. has not entered in any more decisive offensive way, I think that's probably calming the market. It's why, you see in the research notes, it remains a limited war between Iran and Israel, certainly at this point.
Yeah.
Other Gulf states also quiet.
Yeah. The UK will be, the Royal Air Force is on standby, and the UK has advised against all travel to Israel. And there is some, RBC is a good example this morning. Lori Calvasina, a good friend of the show, writes that if you did see energy prices high and sustained, in her view, worst case would take you back to those April lows, which would be a return trip down about 20%.
I think the other question, is the other dominant topic that people are wondering about as far as what's next is this idea of regime change. Is that what ultimately Israel's going for? They have stated, look, I mean, they've called on the people of Iran. That's going to be on the people to do some sort of uprising if the leadership is really weakened further, not necessarily the stated goal here. But again, that's also, how to process that kind of
Yeah, well, there's been
risk.
some reporting that Netanyahu did bring up the possibility of trying to take out the Ayatollah and was told by the president not to do that. So that has not occurred. But in his address, Netanyahu did bring up the idea of regime change in terms of addressing the Iranian people, which he's done before.
He says 80% of the people would throw these theological thugs out. The decision to act rise up is up to them. Not sure exactly, but I mean, what you see on social media and what you hear about, certainly if you have any Persian friends, is that they're very supportive.
Well, I
of
think
that.
one certainly reflection is the fact that the Israelis have been able to penetrate so deeply in terms of their spy craft, being able to to launch drones from Iranian territory. Obviously, they had the cooperation of some people on the ground there, without a doubt. And so that does bring up the idea that there are those who are resistant to the current regime. But whether it results in regime change, which would obviously be a very significant deal, is, I think,
That's a question.
unclear.
And the U.S. involvement. There's this Fordo nuclear facility that is built very deep underground, and it is thought that the U.S. could help finish that job. Experts increasingly have said that Israel doesn't have the capability. We don't know exactly.
I think they don't have access, right, to those bunker buster bombs. Yeah.
So that's another question that remains. I mean, all of this against the backdrop of this G7 meeting where President Trump and his fellow leaders are gathering right now in Canada amid these uncertainties surrounding trade and geopolitics. Megan Cassella is in Alberta with the very latest. Megan.
Hey guys, good morning from Banff here in Canada, in Alberta. I'm standing just about 20 miles from Kananaskis, where these leaders were arriving all day yesterday, where President Trump we saw arrive late last night off of his Marine One helicopter, and where leaders were arriving throughout the day yesterday. All 7 of the G7 leaders here for the summit this week. And if you take a look at these 7 leaders, all of them have been to the White House so far this year, the other 6 to meet with President Trump. So we know he'll be meeting with all of them this week, as well as some other invited officials, leaders of the EU, for example. Australia is here, Mexico as well, some others not confirmed yet. So lots of meetings this week, not so many new ones for the president, but the range of issues that he will be discussing is fairly dramatic at this point. The first one, of course, as you guys were just discussing, this is happening against the backdrop of everything that's been going on between Israel and Iran over the past few days. And the president really trying to sort of tread a line here between steadfast support for Israel, but not overtly endorsing the worst of the attacks, sometimes saying Israel was acting alone, especially in that first day of attacks. And so sort of threading the needle there. We heard him last night say on his way here to Canada, telling reporters that he thinks it's time for a deal. So he's still pushing for that negotiated solution. But he also said sometimes they have to fight it out. So that will be top of mind here. Then the White House has also told us that critical minerals, energy security, and artificial intelligence are some of the issues that will be top of mind for them as well in some of these meetings. And then, of course, the biggest issue that we expect to be talked about here is trade and tariffs at the top of everybody's minds, as all of these leaders are looking to strike a deal with the United States before that tariff deadline kicks in. Take a look here. This is the size of all of the trade deficits with the 6 other countries in the G7. You'll notice the UK has the only trade surplus, and it's also the only country that has struck a framework arrangement with the US to hopefully not see its tariffs kick back in on that July 9th deadline. All of the other countries here want to see something happen. The president told reporters on his way here yesterday that he hopes to see a few new deals. Those were his words. He thinks a few new deals coming out of this summit. I can tell you there are bilaterals coming up, one in the next hour with the Prime Minister of Canada, another one tomorrow between the President Trump, and the President of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum. So maybe those are the ripest for something to happen. But as for the others, we know the EU has been tricky. We thought Japan was close, but those negotiators were in Washington this weekend, and those readouts didn't make it look too promising. So still a long way to go, and a lot of skepticism, I would say, guys, but a lot of hope at the same time that maybe something concrete could happen. Guys?
Yeah, we had the Commerce Secretary on a few days ago. He argued that maybe the EU would be last because of the complexity of all those countries. There is an Indian trade official this morning on the tape, Megan, telling the wires that bilateral talks are progressing and that they do hope to at least have, I think they're calling it an interim deal by July 9th.
That is the most likely scenario, an interim deal, a framework deal, whatever they want to call it. And we did hear Scott Bessent say to lawmakers late last week that as long as talks were moving in the right direction, and I believe he called them good faith negotiations, then the U.S. was likely to kick the deadline down the road. But there's still so much uncertainty there that all of these leaders, the ones that are here and the ones that aren't, are really eager to strike some sort of a deal. But at the same time, they're all dealing with their own internal politics at home. No one wants to look like they're capitulating to the U.S. president. No one wants to look like they met with him in Canada and then got bullied into accepting something that wasn't good for them, for their domestic base. So that's sort of what's at play here. The president has said he wants to see deals. The White House, we know, wants to see some deals. They want to show that there's progress. These other countries want that as well, but no one wants to give up too much in order to get there.
How aligned are all of these other countries, our allies, in the support of Israel and the campaign, what it's doing to destroy Iran's nuclear facilities and capability?
At this point, it seems like fairly aligned. I mean, I think most of what we've seen from European leaders over the weekend is somewhat measured support for Israel. So similar to the U.S. and sort of treading that line of saying they support Israel's right to defend itself, but also not wanting things to go further. So they're most often, I would say, pushing for a negotiated solution, wanting to see both parties get back to the table. But it's interesting because, of course, that wasn't meant to be part of the agenda this week. Now, of course, it's going to dominate the discussions throughout the next 2 days.
Megan, thank you. Megan Sella in obviously beautiful Banff there. And we'll get more, of course, as the morning and the days go by here. Let's give you some news out of Meta. We just got an alert on that. WhatsApp announcing it's going to be rolling out ads directly on its platform. Now, previously, businesses could run what they call click-to-message ads on Facebook or Instagram that then link to WhatsApp, while the platform itself remained ad-free. This move is a part of Meta's broader push to monetize that messaging app. The company says private messaging will remain encrypted and ads will not appear in personal chats. The new features will be the Updates tab, which is home to both channels and status. And, interestingly, guys, as you see, there is a bit of a reaction in Meta shares, up over 3% right now. We'll see how they perform when we get started with trading about 19 minutes from now. This platform is used more widely, I think, in the business side, certainly in Europe. As you know, every time you step outside the U.S., everybody just wants to WhatsApp you, whatever it may be.
We're the only ones that are just like not part of the WhatsApp club.
Yeah. So, it is a powerful platform, certainly used here to a certain extent for messaging, but I think the business aspects of it that this will apply to may be more robust for now, at least outside the shores of the U.S.
And it's always been sort of a call option for Meta, right, to monetize it, which it really hasn't done. I think the one question is the privacy concerns, because the whole thing is that it's encrypted and you don't want any ads, finding out any information about what's in your chats or who's in your chats.
I mean, the point is to target you among the advertisers.
So Meta in this announcement is being very careful to say that it's done with complete privacy and they won't have any access and they won't be selling your information and all of that. But
Right.
I think the second you see ads and something like this, it does raise those questions.
Promoted channels and status ads, right? But
Not an
apparently
individual
staying out of
chats.
your individual chats, yes.
Right. And we'll get to this partnership between Roku and Amazon on ads, which has Roku up more than 9% this morning. When we come back, one analyst take on where oil prices may be headed in the wake of the Middle East conflict. Take a look at the pre-market. We'll start talking some Fed. We'll get the decision Friday. Of course, markets close Thursday, but there's retail sales and claims. We'll get to that after a break.
Oh, stupid ass Juneteenth this week. It's just so stupid. Juneteenth on Tuesday. Who the fuck invented Juneteenth? It's so annoying, bro. Juneteenth? The fuck is that? Cares about slavery? They're still here. They're still slaving this motherfucker. And they want to call it the end of slavery. And they slave right now. It should be the name the Mockery Day, bro. The mockery. Because they slaves right now to this motherfucker. You know they are. But they don't want to admit it. They just want to play. They want to play it safe. Want to be like, HRA got me set. HRA got everything for me. HRA feed my kid. HRA give me a job. What do you think that is? Think that is? Think you're not chained? You think you don't have a chain? You have a cyber chain now. Before you had metal chains, now you have a cyber chain on your ankles. You can't even work with that motherfucker. You got a department level chains on your ankles. Back then was chains. Now it's a HRA department. It's a slave. That's stupid. Juneteenth is the stupidest. Who started Juneteenth, bro? Who started? When did this holiday came out of to bother the stock market like that? Like, stop it. Stop it. Get some help. Stop it. It would be like, yeah, slavery was abolished by Lincoln. Nah, slavery was never abolished by Lincoln. Slavery came back the second HRA, right, started creating a revolving door for people to not just get stamps, but get a job and a place to sleep. So you're an indentured servant right there, baby. You think you're successful in New York City, right? You think you compete for your job? You don't even compete for it. You don't even send out a resume in this motherfucker. You basically are told where to go and what place to work for. That's no freedom. That doesn't seem pretty American to me. That sounds like a technological, servant, like a real slave beat. So stop it, New York. Stop it. Stop it, Juneteenth. The feds are a little bit convoluted on it. Like we need to free these people from these jobs and these cyber chains. They should not be hiring all of the low level income jobs in New York City through an HRA program, right? Right? Because if not, it sounds a little bit racist, right? It's a little bit, it's it's a little bit funny. Starts becoming a little funny when the majority of the low level jobs are through an office. It's like, what is that? Isn't that slavery? I think it's slavery. I think they're servants or something. I think they go in there, they get everything they want, they come back. You is a slave bee. But you need deeper intellectual, critical thinking to get to this stage. You need to think it way out the box to perceive this. Because, like I said already, they're successful here. Those programs generate the illusion of success, and it's only possible within the five boroughs of New York City. That's why you get the exile of 100,000 white people. That's technically why 100,000 people continue to leave, because they're finding success in the slave system. They're finding success at a revolving door, and none of these people would get hired across the bridge that way. Pennsylvania, right? And they got to compete. They need a car, right? They got to compete. They need a car. They need to throw in resumes. They got to go through interviews. And New York City been hiring these slaves in a revolving door, right? You go to jail, you come out, you street sweeper. You go to HRA, you want a job, you go to the Career Connect. You're an abad, you're non-exempt abad. You're an abad. You're able body willing to work, able bodied and willing to work. They'll find you a job too. Now you're a slave. Now you're sitting there. Luckily, there's other types of jobs, but if we were in a if the city were to be less developed and less agriculturally developed, them strawberries need picking. Them Their cotton needs to be picking. They got to work the field. They'll figure it out. The government will figure it out to twist and turn history. Back then, well, they got them from Africa and they did this and they liked it. Some of them liked it, just like they liked using HRA for those jobs with zero competition, with zero interviews. Housing, food stamp, mental health, a shelter, jail. They can do whatever they want. They know that if they go to jail in New York City, they'll get a job through those systems too. So they're not worried about student loans. They're not worried about higher education. They're worried about finding another job through HRA. That's slavery. That's modern slavery. That's the absence of free will. And that's very unequal. That's very unequal for people who are not for people who have to compete. That's real unequal for the people that are not in those programs. I mean, it's okay for how do you call it? Stamps. You make too little. Food stamps is okay. I don't think food stamps involves any type of effort. It's just, yeah, you get food and that's it, and you use it. You just have to show up to an office for food. But getting a job, you're a slave. You got a job from that people. You work wherever they want you to work. Nah, it's sounding just like Lincoln time. They're doing exactly what they're telling you to. Did you see it? Don't you see it? It's modern slavery. When you abolish those systems, right? When you remove those systems, there'll be an Exodus style exile from Egypt, and all these people is gonna have to find a job in the real world. And they'll go, right? When you take out all those programs from the table, you take out the shelter where they house them. You take you start removing, state programs to house, to feed, to basically take care of the slaves. You remove half of that, they'll disappear. If you want to solve homelessness, you want to solve racial conflicts in the city, you want to make it equal for everyone, you want to make work accessible to everyone, you make them compete for a resume. You just don't force you don't force a regular white owned business, an African American a busboy, an African American waiter from you just don't bring people in there like that and saturate lower level retail with African Americans, just like it is in the city, because this has to be spoken about. This is not a game. Lower level retail, department store retail, supermarkets, right? Supermarkets and so on. It's all them. It's all McDonald's, things that should be and are in the mainland, right across the river. A Burger King, for example, a job to rotate teenagers in the neighborhood as a general manager. Low level jobs, the jobs that these people retire in, right? That these slaves retire in, are the jobs that you give a white teenager to work for the summer. You give him about $1,000 in the next 6 months, and you tell him, "Hey, buddy, your time is up. Someone else, someone else is taking your shift." You'll be like, "Really? Yeah, yeah. Oh, here's your last check and some cash on the side. Bye." And get on his car and go home. That's it. He was like, "Yeah, lay it off. He gave me my money, and that's it. No discrimination, no issue, no fighting, no crying, no aggression, no violence, no stealing. Just rotate." And a new kid, it's to give experience to the whole neighborhood. That's what McDonald's, Burger King, Taco Bell. That's what that shit is all about over there. That's how it is. But over here, the saturation, the way it's done is to keep these people in these jobs forever. Like, because they're gonna come back. HRA is gonna rotate. If you kick them out, you fire them. They're gonna rotate them out. You're gonna need someone new because you're in that program, and they're eventually gonna take over your business, and you're never gonna be able to work there. Never. White people's never gonna be able to work in these places. They're not gonna find a job in Target. They're not gonna find a job in McDonald's. They're not gonna find a job. They're not gonna be able to compete for that because it's a revolving door. It's all HRA. It's all indentured government workers. They don't. It's not like such, because they get hired by a private entity, but they come from an institution in which it's technically modern slavery, cyber modern slavery. But you gotta think 3D chess, and they think they're successful because all they gotta do is go in the door and come out, and they got a job. Yeah, I got it. They don't get the real struggle to find a job in Pennsylvania. The real struggle to get hired in that Burger King. The real struggle: sit down, send a resume. Hi, how you doing? Do the interview. Do what they need to do to make that, to still be a rotating employee. To still be a rotary employee, because they're working to retire in a rotary employment. They're retiring. These people, HRA puts these people in position in which they never get fired, in which they are never rotated, in which the local community doesn't even get a chance to work at Burger King or McDonald's, and they stay there forever. 20 years in that, 25 years in the same job. And I'm 40 years old. I know there's some people working in the same job still, 25 years later, 20 years later. I know, because I'm making eye contact. They're working for the same establishment, forever. They're not, it's like, so when do the teenagers of Battery Park get a chance at working at a McDonald's? Never. They're never going to get any retail experience because the slaves got those jobs, because the HRA got all that. They're never going to get a chance. Never going to get a chance. When is a white kid from Battery Park, a 16-year-old kid, is going to get to stock some shelves at Whole Foods? Never. He's never going to get to stock the shelves. Why? Because it's all them, right? And it's back and forth. When is some retail experience in Target? When is a white kid from Battery Park going to get some retail experience at Target, or what they should be? The job availability that it seems to have in a city as big as they're never going to get a job. Why? Because HRA, right? Department Modern Slavery, is constantly supplying the same type of needy people. And who do you think, you know, workplace culture achieves? The same race, baby, the same race, the same people. You're not gonna get it. Your kid is not gonna get a job there. And if he does, he's gonna be discriminated. He's gonna be a target. He's gonna make fun of. They're gonna talk shit about him. They're gonna make him. They're gonna suffocate him with shit. They're gonna suffocate him. He's gonna walk out. Either gonna walk out or they're gonna know and they're not gonna hire. Where are we gonna end up? Like what's gonna happen here? What's gonna happen? How should the future change to really make it equal? Not because how may compete with this. Put a help hired sign. No more HRA jobs. No more revolving door. Food stamps. Okay, leave the cash assistance and the food stamps, but take NYCHA away. Take everything else away because it makes it real difficult, for everyone else. It makes it those services, bro. It's unfair, and they're not gonna leave. They're not gonna leave their job or retire. They're gonna be there for the next 20 years, and their jobs at over there, Pennsylvania, right? Doylestown, Allentown, close to Philly, right? Reading, all that, deep into New Jersey, right? Morristown, Roselle Park, all that. It's small town America. Those kids worked in that McDonald's. At least 25 kids from the local high school have been employed by that same establishment. Doylestown, Pennsylvania, at least 16, 20 kids in a rotary manner have had some Burger King experience, and that's good. As someone that's gonna hire, oh, so you work in Burger King? Oh, nice. I worked in Burger King too when I was a kid. That's something that Americans do, but not here. Not here. The slaves got everything. The slaves got every low-level job out there. When are they gonna wake up and realize that this is not racist thinking? This is reality. Like and they overprice the shit, right? So that you have to pay more for food. You have to be dealing with them all the time, and it's inescapable. It's inescapable. The slavery in this place is inescapable. You have to deal with these people every single day because you have nowhere else to go. Something's got to change, B. Something's got to change. Some big things got to change, and it starts at crushing the three-pronged system, crushing the mental health department, the HRA department, and the Justice Department, and stopping them from sheltering these people. That's how it starts. That's how it starts. You got to stop them from getting a shelter here. You got to privatize the shelter system like that. You sever the supply of employees, right? You got to stop them from asking people to join a slavery program, right? Oh, you can't sleep in public. There's a place for that. You got to sever that. You got to cut that in half. Boom, cut the cable. No more supply of slaves. Technically, no more supply of slaves. And further down the line, decrease their services to a certain extent, in which equality comes back. Equality comes back, in which a Battery Park resident applies to the local McDonald's here at Greenwich Street and finds the job miraculously against all those Hispanics there. And see if he stays for 6 months. See if he's able to stay there. Because if not, you could tell what's happening in the city. I could tell what's happening in the city. The city has a really big problem with race. A really, really, really big problem with race. It's not a game. And we're the ones driven out. We're the ones walking the fuck out of here. In hordes, B. In 100,000. Not 10,000, not a couple people, not in 100,000 level. We're getting out the city. And they're doing it as such. Like, yeah, we're gonna make him leave. Yeah, we're gonna continue messing with him. Right? He's not gonna like it. We're gonna beat him in the train. We're gonna get Whitey out. Well, fuck white people. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do that. And this is the experience. This is the classic current 2025 state of New York City. It's not a game, B. Just because there's few pools of people living in Dumbo, right? In Dumbo, in Williamsburg, right? There's these pockets in which these people rent or whatever, word of mouth or whatever, making their own distinct areas within New York. Doesn't mean that the whole picture is sort of racist. That the whole picture is sort of manipulated, controlled by the slavery system, by the HRA department. You know, there's no competition in that, bro. There's no competition. These people get hired, and they will take every job eventually. You know, luckily, private institutions, Goldman and Sachs, Amex, are not pumping these big private corporations with their people, because if they could, they would stick them in there too. You have to deal with them in there too. You know, you would have to deal with them upstairs at a 15th out of 16th floor, driving more people the fuck out, because that's their goal. Their goal is removing you from the city like if it's theirs. It's colonizing where you live, taking your belongings, just like in third world countries in Puerto Rico, taking your plates, you know, purchasing your car with drug money, so you sell them your car, so that you find your car burned after a murder, right? Take everything that you own, including the last, leave you with 6 plates in the cupboard, right? If you have a bunch of plates, you have VHS, if you have bicycles, exhaust you of everything as the great replacement within where you live. Wait till you die and then move in your house, you know. But before you die, exhaust you of everything valuable to make you either disappear or take you, you know, take your stuff at discount, because they're going to be begging. They're going to be begging for your car. They're going to be begging for your apartment. Oh, sell your house for cheaper. Oh, this and that. And what's the rationale in that? What's happening? What's happening? The great replacement is real, right? They're replacing you. The racial divide, right? A ginormous racial divide between, you know, between where we are and where they are, how the majority is there. And you are driven out. You're like, oh shit, I'm not supposed to be here. Out quickly. We leave. We leave because we can't stand being in that jive shit. We're not like that, you know. We're not supposed to be. They're not supposed to be making this South Central LA, you know. They're not supposed to be making this Compton and shit, Watts Avenue up and down. But this is what's happening. These programs are making these areas Compton. You know, they're making this, instead of positive gentrification, making poor areas richer. It's the complete opposite within New York City. So Battery Park is the last remaining, the last remaining domino to fall before all of this is fucked, before all of Manhattan is consumed by this. And luckily, corporations like Amex, Goldman and Sachs, anything left within these buildings is not going to allow this. But if they could, they would. And they would put an indentured servant in there. They would put a government hired employee of another race. And eventually, you're going to be surrounded. You're going to be singled out. They're going to call you out. They're going to micromanage you. They're going to make you hate your job. And you're going to find a new job in New Jersey and leave. Because that's their plan. That's the master plan. That's the against BLM tactic against whitey here. You know, it's serious, bro. It's not a game. It's not a game to be in a supermarket stared down by infinite African American employees. It's not a game, and those jobs should be for white kids. They're working the white kids. The Rotary, you know, jobs that should be Rotary, they take over for that, and they want to retire. They do 20 years in that motherfucker. It's serious. It's real concern, bro. It's real concerning. And I'm at the edge, bro. I'm going to California. I'm at the tip. A little bit more pressure, a little bit more discrimination, a little bit more of harassment, a little bit, you know, more lost sleep, right? Higher food prices, you know, no electric availability. I'm closer and closer and closer to leaving, just like 100,000 people, thanks to these people. To leaving outright, just boom, I'm done. I'm not going to be here. Because they make it unlivable for you. They make sure that their presence is known. They make sure to harass the shit out of you, abuse you, beat you to a pulp, you know, put you at risk so that you end up in New Jersey or getting on a train to Chicago and then LA. They'll make sure of that. And the market open. Nice. Where are we? Where are we? Oh, big spike 602. Where are we at the macro? Volume up. All right, so volume up spike. I'm gonna buy 0 DTE calls 10 DTE called 3% at 50% in the money, right? We're gonna buy that one by call 50% limit, right? 3 of them, confirm and send. And I'm gonna buy 2 ice out the money at $55, right? By 10% limit at the dip. And I gotta go because I gotta go to work, B. It's serious, man. It's not a game, B. What they doing in the city is not a game. It's mad fucking hatred. You can't even be on the train. The best part of the entire city was being on the train, waking up and going to whatever public library around me. I like doing that, you know. I like being on the train because I could wake up in the middle of the morning, just like, you know, just like at the same hour I'm in, right? The same hours I'm in the computer and head to a different library every day. But nah, they don't want you to do that. They don't want you to be free like that. They don't want you to have that freedom. They want you to suffer for being in a train. They're gonna violently assault you as you sleep, right? They're gonna beat you up. They're gonna smoke drugs in your face. They're gonna make you leave the subway. You know, has to stop. It's has to stop, B. They gotta go. They gotta go, B. They gotta find a place for these people. They gotta go because they're making New York City unlivable, unlivable, and it's all based on lax laws, right? Lack of arrest for stealing. They're making it Gotham City. You know, they just don't care. They don't care. They're not going to arrest them. And they should be arresting them. They should be catching any single one of these people out there looking to do these things to people like myself. I should be able to pass out on a train comfortably without being harassed with drugs in the middle of the night. You know, without no crack smoke, no fentanyl smoke, no marijuana smoke, without being assaulted unprovoked, all that. But they're going to continue doing it until you leave the city, B. And I wish the tables turn, bro. I wish the great replacement completely changes and they have to think about their next location. You know, I wish Law and Order puts them in a position that they got to, right? Think about their next location. I need them to think where they're going to go because the city is prosecuting these people left and right, and you know, make them think. Be like, oh, where are we going now? Oh, we got to leave the city. Oh, I got to get new stamps somewhere else. Oh, I got to compete for a job. You see what I mean? I got to do the real, you know, force them to live a regular American life and not whatever they, you know, not this jive shit that they got going on here in New York City. They got a little bit too easy out here, B. They think they real successful and they just fucking HRA slaves, B. It's for real. And we taking all this shit out here. We taking mad flack. All right, let's get out of here. 9:39. It's the last trade of the day. We got one in the money already. Gold is slipping. Gold is slipping pretty good. It's going down, but it's fine. Gotta go. I'll see you guys. Hey. I'll see you guys at 10:15. I gotta go check if there's a sausage, egg and cheese over there at Amazon Go now. Peace.